So I've tried to keep this name in every MMO I play. Sometimes it's a variation of it, depending if it's taken already. But I usually jump in on MMOs day one or week one. But it's going to be Tetsu, and it's based off the anime Akira. The character's name is Tetsuo. I did Tetsu, and it's also a shortened version of an anime weapon from an anime called Inuyasha, which is Tetsaiga. But Tetsu is my go-to name, and as we continue this little interview, you'll notice that I'm somewhat of a weeb. If you guys, you'll eventually notice during the interview. Well, it was, I would say, around 2015 or so. I was missing old school MMOs, and I was nostalgic for that. I get the itch every so often, and at the time I was playing Final Fantasy 14, and that's, a theme park modern MMO, and I just had that missing that feeling of like EverQuest Online Adventures, Final Fantasy 11, and even Vanilla WoW. So I was on YouTube looking for YouTube videos of those older games, and I came upon a content creator called Ikuyo Nostalgia, and he was just describing PRF. So that's how I came upon it. Yes, so I've been part of it already, or I'm in the Discord. It's Nathan Napalm's guild. So right now it's the Knights of Napalm is what I plan on joining. So if it comes out originally, if it's there on release rather, I plan on being a halfling bard, assuming it happens, but of course we don't know 100% yet. If not, then my backup one was going to be a human cleric, and the reason why I'm going with those two is I love support. I just love helping the team. Support was a role back in the day, was a thing, not so much in modern MMOs, so that's why I'm kind of going that route. I just love helping the team, plus I'm kind of short myself, so kind of translates into the world, so halfling. So my all-time favorite love is and will always be Final Fantasy 11. I started with RuneScape Classic. That's prior to old school RuneScape. As people may not remember, there's RuneScape 3, now there's old school RuneScape, but there's older school RuneScape, which is Classic RuneScape. And went and then from that to EverQuest Online Adventure, and that gave me the peripherals, the tools, the hard drive, and the PS2 to Final Fantasy 11. And that is really just my favorite one, and it's actually the Japanese counterpart to EverQuest, because it has like the social interdependence, the difficulty being spread out throughout the leveling experience. It's not that curve where it's easy 80% of the game so everyone can enjoy it like modern games, which I understand why, and then end game is where it gets tough like modern games, but it's hard throughout the game. But it's very similar to EQ, just got that Final Fantasy lore and Japanese spin to it. And it was great because it was cross-platform with the PS2, the Xbox 360, and PC, and it had a sub-job system where you can incorporate abilities from other jobs, but not enough where you would lose your class identity. I know that's a big thing where, nowadays you can kind of do everything, and I don't like that. Hence why I'm looking forward to Pantheon. But it had a sub-job system where you could kind of keep, if you were level 50 paladin, you could get abilities from another job that was like level 25 monk. You can grab abilities from there if you wanted to. It may not be useful, but you could. So Final Fantasy 11 was really my favorite MMO, and the last thing I'll say on it is that the devs from Final Fantasy 11, well, they were instructed to play EverQuest when developing 11, so very similar, just a Japanese Final Fantasy twist on it. The one that comes to mind most often was I was camping an NM, or Notorious Monster, in Final Fantasy 11, and me and my buddy, we were in high school, and we had been camping that mob for like, I don't know, it was started like after school, like 6 or 7, and it was a week Friday night or something, and it must have been like 3 in the morning, and we'd been there all night drinking vanilla Coke, probably. He was in his house, I was in mine, and we had landline still, and so it popped right in front of me apparently, but at that time I had fallen asleep on my keyboard, and he was freaking out because it popped in front of me, and we were waiting so long for it, and I just didn't get it. And he didn't want to call my house, knowing that, you know, you don't want to do that, wake up my whole house at 3 in the morning. And the next day he called me, and he was so upset with me. He's like, dude, we have been camping this thing for weeks, and then we camped it all night, all morning, and it popped in front of you, and you didn't even move. So that one always comes to mind. That would be in Final Fantasy 14, because I didn't do much raiding when I was younger, because it was just hard to get to those end game levels. Modern games, you can get there a lot easier, and so I would say it's Titan Extreme back in Final Fantasy 14 2.0, before they made it easier and they nerfed a lot of the older content. But it was just such a hard fight because it was like it's DDR, MMO DDR. You had to dodge everything. One wrong move and it knocked you off the stage, and you were out for the whole fight. And if you're out for the whole fight, you know, you weren't going to DPS that thing down. So Titan EX during the 2.0 era of Final Fantasy 14. So right now I don't really have a gaming machine. The machine I currently have is I built it in 08. It's running a quad-core Q6600 processor. I think that's the first quad-core processor, and a 550 Ti. It's a StarCraft 2 machine. But I do have this HS70 Pro wireless headset. That's the only thing that's gonna transfer over to my new Pantheon rig. So since I don't PC game much, that's would be my one gaming hardware that's coming over to the new rig that I plan on making for Pantheon. I hope to see everyone in Pantheon. I'm excited for it. I'd love everyone to just not lose faith in Pantheon. I believe it's gonna happen. Just give it some time, and when it finally does happen, I'm sure we're all gonna have a ton of fun in it, and it's gonna bring back those tingly feelings we had from whether it's EverQuest or Star Wars Galaxies or Final Fantasy 11 or any of those other old school MMOs that we used to play. Well, after tracking it for, well, just, you know, being in the loop per se, on and off here and there since 2015 or so, and with the recent newsletter letting us know that, you know, they're revamping stuff, and after Project Fairtale, I'm gonna say they want it ready for the holidays. I'm gonna say November 1st, 2024.